the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
Can do what you see versus what the numbers tell you, but from your vantage point, because this is something that I think is, to me, and I wonder if you agree, is the most pressing 2025 dilemma for Josh Heupel and Tennessee football is how do they fix the vertical passing game? How do they bring those chunk plays back that disappeared when Dante Thornton did not touch the football in 2024? How do they fix that schematically? How do they do that based on what you've seen from the film and how this offense has changed over the last 2 years, Patrick?
Well, I think it's sort of a multifaceted issue, Chase. And I will start out by saying I am no X's and O's expert. My football playing days tapped out in middle school, unless you want to count some intramural. I had a pretty good intramural team at UT, but
there you go.
That's obviously flag football.
That counts.
Very different. But we had a playbook. We practiced. We did all that stuff. So, and I've only sort of gotten a little bit more into the X's and O's of stuff the last few seasons. I kind of just like to know why a play worked, why, and I would still, if they were to have me come watch film, sit in on a position meeting for 30 minutes, I would learn more from that session than I already know by far. So, but you make a good point. I mean, I think there's two big questions to me for this offense going into this offseason. It is, can they get those explosive passing plays back, like you mentioned? And also, what are they going to do about tempo? Because plays per minute numbers have been down pretty. They've been kind of a little bit the first three seasons. They went the fastest in 21. As good as the 2022 offense, it was a little bit slower just in terms of plays per minute. And even the 2023 offense was, I think it was 2.99 to 2.88 to 2.77. And this season it was about 2.5. So a bigger fall off. And I think there's a couple ways to look at that. Is one, it's a positive that Josh Heupel is not so rigid in his identity, that he was willing to adapt as a head coach and how he managed and coached games to play to his team's strengths. His team's strengths in 2024 was Dylan Sampson in the defense. So, if it behooved you to slow down games, and we saw them play ball control a few games, Mississippi State in the second half without Nico, certainly the Oklahoma game in the second half, they slowed things down. Vanderbilt in the second half, I think Vanderbilt ran like 11 plays in the second half, something crazy like that. And so that I think that can be a positive, but at the same time, this offense was at its best when it was going fast, and you sort of had a 2-year regression where you've gone continually slower. So I think that has to be maybe a mindset thing. It also has to be personnel too. I mean, your players have to know what they're doing and be able to operate almost like it's muscle memory, second nature, that kind of thing. So they've got to get to that point. I think it's interesting personnel wise that they're going to have a lot of new pieces on this 2025 offense. Could be really young at wide receiver, going to be young at running back with a couple of sophomores. So, but you should have a quarterback in Nico Iamaleava who's in his second year of the system, or second year as a starter, third year in the system. He should be able to operate things faster. Could have a new center. That's a part of the tempo too. So we'll have to see how all that plays out personnel wise. But getting back to the passing game, your question, I think they've got to. They still took shots. I don't think the percentage of downfield throws was drastic. There wasn't a big drop off this year. And you mentioned Dante Thornton. I was looking at some of his, target depth and things like that on PFF. And he wasn't like for all the big plays he had, a lot of his throws are sort of in that 10 to 20 yard range, right over the middle on some of those post routes and those RPOs. That was what he was bad. He wasn't a guy that was just flying past people, maybe like Jalen Hyatt was. So, they've got some guys I think that can still do that at receiver, but you'd like to see some of the stacked receiver sets. I would like to see, having been able to watch, bowl games and some of all these college football playoff games, during the season, I'm covering a game on a Saturday. So I have a large chunk of my time is at the stadium, traveling to the stadium if it's if it's on the road. So I don't get to watch a lot. I probably got to watch more after the regular season ends than maybe during the season, just week to week, other than the open dates that Tennessee has. So, I think Tennessee could do well to maybe add some more pick route, rub route kind of things to their offense. And obviously it's different with the way they play with the wide splits. You're almost going to have to do that stuff sort of into the boundary on the near hash, which, they've had a lot of success this half doing formations in the boundary where they overload the weak side, maybe isolate a matchup to the field. So, they can do more things like that. I've seen a lot of teams have a lot of success with like post corner routes and sort of double moves. Tennessee's had double moves. They did a lot of stutter and goes this season, and there's plays in games, if you go back, where they have those shot plays dialed up. I remember a couple of them against Georgia where, their longest pass play was like 17 yards. They really didn't take that many downfield shots. They had some of those there, but by the time the receiver gets out of the double move, there's a breakdown in pass protection, and Nico's having to move off the spot and he can't load up and throw it. So I think some of those double moves where, you're taking downfield shots, but you're getting guys to sort of, you're getting your receivers to turn defensive backs one way and then breaking the other. I feel like I've seen a lot of teams do that just watching football over the last several weeks. And so I think there's things they can do there in terms of expanding the route tree, but they also just need to execute better. I know that's not an answer that fans want to hear. And we heard a lot from Josh Heupel and players throughout the season, but you really look at it, it was every, they would have guys open a lot. It felt like, particularly in October when the offense was really sort of scuffling, it felt like they had guys open quite a bit, and either Nico would miss the throw, catch wouldn't be made on the end, or, there would be a situation where pass protection comes up, or somebody gets beat, can't step into the as accurate of a throw, can't even get the throw off in some cases. So there are some things that certainly they can do. And I'll be interested to see how they sort of self-scout and evaluate and try to tweak things. Cause we saw it this year, as much as maybe the offense struggled. I think one of the positives is they introduced more 2 tight end sets. It was really successful. And it got to the point where late in the year, they were leaning on it quite a bit in games. So that's something that, evolved from 2023 to 2024 with what they had in the tight end room. So we'll have to see with this new lineup that they're going to have, particularly the skill spots, particularly wide receiver, how they're able to tweak things to play to the strengths of Mike Matthews. We had a question on our GoVols247 mailbag that's on our site now about, who's going to replace Brew. And I'm like, there's not really a 6'3", 230-pound linebacker / bulldozer of a receiver on the roster right now, unless they go get one.
You might not have to replace him, depending on what happens.
So, but I don't think I don't see a path to him being back, but
you never know, man. He's got that eligibility, and he's working out with Mike and Nico. He could.
In this day and age, eligibility is very much a moving target. Yeah. You can probably just stew your way to more years if you wanted to. And we'll see. But how do they replace Thornton? I don't think they have a guy that's maybe that fast, but there's a guy that can work the middle of the field on RPOs and do things after the catch. So they're just gonna have to tweak some of those things as they do every offseason. But certainly this is an offseason where I think they really got to take a hard look at the offense and figure out, can they get back to going fast, and how do they generate those explosive plays, like you said.
So when you look at the mailbag and like how the pulse of Tennessee fans and where they're at with this offense, what do you think is the most fair criticism of where Heupel's offense is the last 2 years? And what do you think is the most overblown criticism from fans?
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas podcast. Hell yeah.